All right, today we are going to show you how we built a CFT worm bin. CFT, continuous flow through. Basically what happens is you put the food scraps in the top and the worms go to the top, and then the castings go to the bottom, and then they come out, and there's pipes along the bottom that will allow the castings to kind of stay in place until you're ready to harvest them. It's kind of an awesome process. And they're really easy to build. So we got a bunch of them. We're gonna build another one, show you guys how we do it. So we're gonna start with a couple of 8-foot 2x4s, and we're gonna cut those down because we want them 3 inches shorter than that, because we're gonna put 2x4s on each end. It'll make sense once I show you the dimensions we have to do for the pipes. So we're gonna do that first. Okay, so for the bottom parts of the CFT, we're using this is 1/2 inch galvanized conduit, and so the diameter of this is 3/4 of an inch, and so half of that is 3/8. And so what we want to do on these 2x4s that we just cut is mark a spot so that we're going to be drilling at the exact center of the board. Okay, so the first mark is going to be at 1 3/8, 3 3/8, 5 3/8, etc., 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 all the way down the board. Okay, and what that'll do is that'll give you 46 marks along the board. So then the next thing you're going to want to do is cut the 2x4 mentally cut the 2x4 in half and draw a chalk line. So a 2x4, right, is actually only 3.5 inches, and so that's going to be 1 3/4, and you're going to mark that, do a chalk line, and then you're going to have where you're going to drill for the holes that'll hold the CFT, the bottom part of the CFT. So what this intersection is the center hole, or the basically where you need to take your drill bit and drill. So we have a 3/4 inch drill bit, and so what's going to happen next is after we do that chalk line, we're going to drill at each one of these spots, at the intersection of those spots, and that will allow us to put the pipes in and create the bottom of the CFT. Okay, so now we have a chalk line. If you were smart, you would have done this before the previous step where you're marking off the lines, because then all of them would have intersected. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put these two boards on top of each other, clamp them together so that I'm drilling through both boards at the exact same time, so that the holes will be exactly lined up. That'll save me a lot of work later. All right. All right, so when you're done drilling all those holes, it should look something like this. Okay. Okay, so now that you've drilled those holes, you want to put the end caps on, so you need two 30-inch 2x4s, and we're going to cut those now. Okay, so now we have two 30-inch boards, and we are going to connect them onto the ends of the the just under 8 foot 2x4s, and then by adding two 2x4s on the end, it is now exactly 8 feet long, and that's why we did it that way. So, and what we'll do is we'll line these up, attach them with some 3-inch screws, a little bit cleaner than that, and then we can start putting the pipe in. All right, so now we have the frame laid out. It is 8 foot by 2.5 foot square. And then we're gonna slide the pipes in and line them up. They don't have to be perfect. That's the beautiful thing, because you've got about 1.5 inches of wiggle room on each side. And then once we get those in, I'll show you what that's gonna look like. Okay, so now we have all the pipes in place. So it's gonna look like this. Basically, this is furniture building 101, right? And so you'll see there's a perfect gap between each one, even on this side. And that's where the castings will rest on top of that. And then whenever you want to harvest from it, you just scrape the bottom of it. You can see our harvesting the CFT video, and that's what the base is going to look like. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut a 4x8 sheet of plywood and build a side here and a side here. I like plywood because it's durable and easy to find. Some people don't like it because of the arsenic used in the glue that holds the stuff together. I don't worry about it leaking into my castings because it never has. We get the stuff tested regularly, so I've never had any issues with it. If you wanted to use something different, let me know in the comments what you'd recommend. If they're, plastic doesn't seem sustainable, not that plywood is really all that sustainable, but you could always use something like a thick plastic on the ends, but we're going to use plywood. All right, so now we've cut our 4x8 sheet of plywood in half, and then we have the two walls. So what's going to happen is we're going to line these up on each side, and this will create the front and the back of the CFT. All right, so next you're going to want to have a surface to screw to in each corner. So we've got the two side panels up, but we're going to need a whole nother panel here, and we're going to create some legs. So this is 20.5 inches. So anything under that is fine. And so you need 4 of those, and then we'll be able to measure and cut the panels for the side. Okay, so I just had some scrap lumber that I used for the braces. These are what we're going to use to screw in the side pieces. And so the side pieces, since we know it's 30 inches wide, going to be 24 inches up, so 30 by 24. So I have a sheet of plywood over there that I'm going to cut to be 30 inches by 24 inches. Roughly, it's scrap, so it's close. And I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Okay, so now we have the sides on what looks like a giant sarcophagus. So all we have left are legs. I've used cinder blocks. I'm going to build legs, and I'll show you that, but I've used cinder blocks in the past. You can honestly use sawhorses if they're strong enough. Keep in mind, this is 8 feet by 2.5 feet by 2 feet deep, okay? So that is roughly 1.5 yards, which is roughly 1.5 tons of weight is gonna be in here. So 3,000 pounds of material. So you wanna make sure that whatever you have for legs can handle that kind of weight. All right, so the legs, so what we've done with the legs is they're basically 4 feet tall, okay, with a 2-foot step. And so what we do is we put it under like that, so it hooks under the CFT, and that way it'll have that much more support. So it'll be an entire 2x4 supporting the weight. So we'll have 4 of those around the bin, and we'll put those on, and then we'll be able to put this thing in place and we'll be ready to fill it up. Okay, the last step in the build is I use craft paper, basically the stuff that Amazon ships your packages in. It's this brown cardboardy feeling paper, like this, right? So you get a bunch of this, you spread it out evenly across the bottom. You're gonna spray it with water, just like a mist from a hose, just enough to get it damp. You don't want it like soaking wet. And then you can start putting in your worms, your bedding. This is basically treat it like a giant standard worm bin. And then what I use underneath they're called cement mixing trays, because 4 of them, because of this design, 4 of them fit perfectly underneath. They can catch anything that falls out. There shouldn't be too much that falls out until you're ready for it. And that's it. That is how you make a very, very large CFT. Again, it's 8 feet by 2.5 feet by 2 feet deep. Holds about 3,000 pounds of castings at a time. So we feed ours, it goes through about 100 to 150 pounds a week of food. You figure even if you're just giving it about 2 inches, that's a lot of food. It's pretty awesome. And then you just harvest from the bottom. You can see the video we have on that. And there you go. If you have questions or comments or anything, put them below the video. I will post a listing of all the materials used, all the tools that you're going to need to build this, as well as the cost in my area. For what it took to build this, it's considerably cheaper than some of the commercial units, and it basically does the exact same thing. So there you go. All right. Thank you for watching.